start of Dry Run December, where we take some habits for a test drive, a dry run, if you will. That way, when the ball drops at midnight on New Year's Eve, we will already have our ball rolling. And because I'm all about starting small, I wanted to share some simple things that I do that make my life so much easier, just in case you're stuck for ideas. Let's go. Hi guys, it's Laura and I help you live a simpler, happier, more spacious life. And over the years, I have learned a few simple tricks to make life simpler, happier, and more spacious. More headspace, more space in my schedule. But I also know the temptation, because I face it every year myself, on New Year's Eve or just around that time, to really go big on the resolutions and try and change everything, or at least multiple things, overnight. But those are really hard to maintain, and sometimes the smallest steps are what lead to the biggest impact. Sometimes a small step can be a stepping stone to a bigger success. And that's why I always think it's great to start small, because you can build on small successes. You can build them up into a really big win. And they will keep you kind of motivated and pushing along the way. They're all those little milestones, those checkpoints. Those are the things that I want to talk about today. And all of them are kind of seemingly insignificant, but they have seriously changed my life. Now, if you've been around here for any decent length of time, this first one will come as no surprise to you, but that is setting timers. I swear by them. Actually, if you were to look back over all of my recent Siri commands, the vast majority of them would be, Siri, set a timer for X amount of time. Actually, when I started recording this video, a timer did go off to remind me to do something. So yeah, live and die by them. For me, this works in two different ways. The first is that it gets me into that kind of race against the clock mentality. You know that saying where, a task will expand to fill the time that you have for it. So let's say you have a day to do something. You're going to either kind of take your time with it and it's going to take the whole day, or maybe you'll procrastinate until the last minute. But either way, it will be a day before you get that task done. Whereas if somebody says, hey, actually, I'm going to need that in an hour, you are going to hustle. You're going to get it done in an hour. It's kind of like handbags, like the bigger your bag, the more you just put into it. But if you're forced to downsize to a smaller bag or a smaller house even, you just manage, you do it. So yes, setting a timer helps to kind of give me those limitations that I need to get my arse in gear, get moving, and get the job done. It's just too easy for me to let things drag on, particularly with planning and research, which are two things I love. And, I could do that all the time without actually doing anything, taking any action. So yes, the time limits just help me to stay focused. I just dive in and I get it done. And I also set time limits actually on the apps on my phone. And again, I know that I only have a certain amount of time to spend on whatever social media app. So I'm not just kind of mindlessly scrolling. And then the other way it helps me, and it's kind of a spin-off from that, is that if I don't set a timer, if I just start working on something and I don't know when the end point is going to be, my brain will want to give me end points. It will start looking for a way out. It will be constantly checking the clock and wondering when my next break is going to be, and asking myself, should I take a break now? Should I take a break later? It's just like this constant questioning cycle in my head. Whereas when I have a timer set, I know that my break is coming up. My brain can just kind of like set that aside. That's taken care of, and actually focus on the task at hand. So if you find that you tend to procrastinate on some things, or you can kind of drag a task out for longer than necessary, or if you find that you get easily distracted when you are doing a task, then use Dry Run December to try and get yourself into the habit of setting timers. You will see the benefits of this one immediately. The next one then kind of expands on that and takes it to the next level. This is going to be a serious game changer and time saver. Automate as much as you can. Take some time this month to set timers, to set alarms, to, put your thermostat or something on a schedule, to set up auto pay for your bills. You could also set up a subscription service that kind of automatically delivers the things that you need on a regular basis. We use one of these for like cleaning products, toilet paper, toiletries, etc. I don't have to bother going out for those, they all just come to my home. Same with some prescriptions, things like that. There are lots of things that you can just get delivered to your home when you need them, or they can be ready for you at a store for you to just pick up. But again, that thermostat example, that's a great one. That's something that I benefit from every day. I don't have to bother, you know, turning it up and turning it down. Not that I would ever switch it down, like my husband does that all the time, but we just set it on a schedule so that at night it's a little bit cooler, but when we wake up in the morning, the house has reheated. This is a game changer. But maybe your coffee machine, you put that on a timer so that when you wake up in the morning, your coffee is ready to go. So think about all of those things that you could set up that would just make your life run that much smoother, things that can be working in the background for you. So what can you schedule? What can you put on auto pay? What can you set a timer for? Any time that you put into that this month is going to pay dividends in the months and years to come. Some of the stuff you might think, well, it doesn't really take all that much time, but that all adds up. If you can, you know, scrape back a few minutes here and there to focus on something that you actually want to be doing, all the better. Life is busy enough, so if you can claw back some time for yourself, do it. Another thing that is kind of similar to that is to have master lists or templates. Something that, again, you just set up once and then you can just keep referring back to that master list over and over again without having to rewrite it every time. So shopping lists are a really great example. If you have a master list of all of the things that you would kind of typically buy, and then each time you go to the store, all you have to do is just highlight the ones that you need for that particular shopping trip. This is going to save you so much time because you don't have to keep rewriting your list every week. You don't have to go to the store and realize, you know, after you've come home that you forgot something. I also use reset checklists. So I do a reset day at the end of every week, at the end of every month, and at the end of every quarter. And it's to help me keep on top of those kind of recurring tasks. For example, laundry is one, changing filters, filing paperwork, all of those types of things. By having a kind of master checklist that I can refer back to and work from every time I come to a reset day, it ensures that I am keeping on top of those things and nothing is falling through the cracks. Really easy, really convenient. It just means that I'm not forgetting anything. I do actually have my reset lists as a free printable. If you want to go ahead and grab those, if you haven't already, the link will be in the description. You can either work off my lists, or I've also provided a blank template where you can kind of build up your own reset list, and you could use maybe mine as inspiration. But look at the lists that you write or the things that you do on a regular basis and see if there is a list or a checklist, like a master list that you can put together that you can just then easily refer back to, so that you don't have to rewrite it every time, or you don't have to try and remember everything, and you don't have to basically reinvent the wheel each time you go to do that task. Following on from that, something that your lists can also help you do is to batch your tasks. It is something that I talk a lot about in my productivity course, but it's really helpful for getting things done in a much more efficient way. Now, there are kind of several different ways that you can do it. Again, I go into those in the course, but basically when you are planning out your week, look to see what are the kind of same or very similar tasks that you could do all in one go rather than spreading them out through the week. So let me give you some examples. Batch cooking meals would be a good one, where you kind of plan and prepare all your meals for the week, maybe even cook them all so that you have leftovers. Another one would be running errands. Rather than going out and back each day or multiple days throughout the week, try and get them all done in one afternoon or one morning, for example, so that when you go out, you're making one trip instead of lots of little trips. By batching them, by putting them together, you are going to be able to complete them so much quicker. And why is that? Well, the kind of setup and cleanup is a huge part of a lot of tasks. You know, by the time we kind of get everything that we need and kind of get into the right mindset, that can take some time. Sometimes it can be a lot of time, and sometimes it can just be a minute or two. But again, that all adds up. And again, cleanup, particularly for cooking or anything like that, isn't it better to do that one time rather than having to do it multiple times throughout the week? You know, while you have all of the knives and saucepans and stuff already out, it makes sense to chop up a few extra vegetables or to prepare a few extra meals. And then you only have to clean up those things once rather than preparing a meal, washing everything up, putting it away, and then the next day just starting that vicious cycle all over again. Can you tell? I hate cooking. But also, as I've kind of alluded to, it can take your brain a while to kind of get into the flow of a task. So once you're in that flow, you may as well take advantage of it and keep doing the same thing. You know, when you start a task and it's maybe a repetitive thing and it kind of, you know, takes you a little bit, but once you get into the groove, then you're just like working on, I don't know why, I'm just like chopping, but you know what I mean. Doing them all together is so much quicker than having them spread out. Take a look at your to-do list for the coming week, the coming month, and see what you can batch together. And then there are those things that kind of do need to be done regularly, but not frequently. For example, like a car service or a health checkup, you know, a physical or a dental exam or an eye test. Those types of things. They do need to be done on a regular basis, but just not very frequently. First of all, if you haven't already had any of those done this year, might be time to book them in. But the best way to stay on top of those, to kind of ensure that you don't have to try and remember when the next one is due, or, you know, call up, spend half your life on hold trying to book an appointment, is to actually book your next appointment as you are at the current one. This is a really simple thing that I do that saves me so much hassle. So before I leave the dentist, I make my next appointment. That way it is all taken care of and I don't have to spend half the day trying to get through to talk to someone on the phone. Also saves me having to talk on the phone because hate that. It's a really simple, small thing, but it does actually make a big difference. Now, some places are not going to let you book that far in advance. For those times, get into the habit of making a note in your planner, on your calendar, to call up to make your next appointment. So while you're at the dentist or the eye doctor or whatever, whip out your planner, your calendar, and write a note for 6 months, 12 months, whatever the next time is, to actually call up and book that appointment. Again, you're just relieving a lot of that mental burden of having to try and remember. It just ensures that all of those small things that can turn into big things if they're not taken care of are all sewn up. Speaking of which, or something that you can do kind of as part of that, is to set reminders for everything. Every single thing. Reminders to buy birthday presents, reminders to, you know, prep for something, reminders to book those appointments, reminders to water your plants. All of those things, again, that you do on a regular basis or that you need to be reminded of so that you don't have to keep trying to remember. The birthday presents one in particular has been a lifesaver for me because they just creep up on me so quickly. Whereas now I leave a note at least a week out, if not 2 weeks, to buy a gift. Whatever it is for you, set an alert or a reminder on your phone. If it's a recurring event, set a recurring reminder on your phone. I also set ones about a week before an annual subscription is due to renew, just to remind me, because I may want to actually cancel that. You know, I may not want to renew and it might be set up to auto renew. So, or like a free trial, that's a good one. Before a free trial expires and you're about to be charged, set a reminder on your phone for a few days in advance. But taking time now to set up those reminders, to set those alarms, is going to ease that mental burden, is going to help you to remember all of those different things and just make your life run smoother. Again, just one of those small, teeny tiny things that does have a big impact. Oh, it got very dark all of a sudden. Sun has gone in behind a cloud. Next simple thing that has revolutionized my life is to write everything down. And I mean everything. Listen, if I had $1 for every time I told myself, I don't need to write that down, I'll remember that, I would be able to afford a live-in assistant who could write everything down for me. Again, it's about not having to remember to do all of those things. You have a written record of them, you have them added to your to-do list, added to your calendar, whatever needs to happen, but also it's a great record of my life. During my day, I will jot down, you know, what I'm working on, how I'm feeling, you know, something funny that happened, very small little snippets from my day that really just add up and kind of tell the story of my life. They help to document the everyday things, and that's kind of what life is made up of, isn't it? It's all of those smaller everyday things. You know, when I look back on old journals, and I see kind of, the music I was listening to at the time, or, something that I was doing, or the friends that I was hanging out with, I'm kind of like, oh yeah. That's like, at the time, those seem like minor things, or they seem like the things that you will remember forever, but you don't. Certainly I don't. My memory is terrible. So by having that little written record, sometimes I look back even just on last year, I'd be like, oh yeah, I was working on that project, launching something or whatever, and now look at it. Or that's the day I was working on that video that went viral, or all of those small tiny little things. Maybe you don't even realize it at the time that it's going to turn into something big, but by having that record, it's just a wonderful way to document your life. It's all of the thoughts and ideas, it's all of the books I was reading, all the things I was helping my daughter with. At the end of each year, I sit down and I reread back over all of those entries, and it just helps to paint this lovely picture of my life. Honestly, writing things down is one of the best things that I have ever done, especially because, like I said, I have the memory of a goldfish. And decluttering, I don't care if it's a small drawer, if it's a dresser, if it's your entire digital life, weeding out all of the things that you no longer care about is going to give you so much extra time and space for the things that are truly important to you. I know it's easy to think, oh, it's just sitting there, it's not really taking up that much space, it's not really in the way, but there is only so much you can do with a garden that is full of weeds. You can plant all the beautiful blooms you like, all of the vegetables, all of the trees, all the good stuff, but if you're not actually weeding, you're wasting your time. You need to clear out the junk, the clutter, the weeds, so that there is more space for the good stuff. And not just that, but also because once that good stuff is in place, it can actually thrive and bloom and blossom and not eventually be crowded out by all of those weeds that have slowly but surely spread. And you don't have to tackle an entire lot, an entire vegetable patch in one go, but 1 square foot at a time, 1 piece of paper at a time, 1 email subscription at a time. Everything, every single thing that you clear out now is creating that time and that space so that you can do or have or focus on something that you love, and not just in the moment, but that space will be cleared out forever so that that thing, that hobby, for example, can continue to grow and thrive, and you can continue to give your time and energy and love to it. Start weeding now and you will be amazed at the bounty that is waiting for you. And delegating, if you are a control freak or a perfectionist like I am, you really struggle with this one, but it is a simple thing that once you kind of learn how to do it, and you can start very small, I'll give some examples, but once you start and see the benefits, this is something that is like that stepping stone that is going to lead to bigger and better things for you. This year in particular, I have made huge strides towards getting help with various different things, and it has made a big difference, let me tell you. And every time I do it, every time I get some help with something, I realize how great it is, how much time and energy it frees up for me, and that kind of propels me to get a little bit more help with other things. And here's the thing, I'm still a perfectionist, but I have either found other perfectionists to help who also have very high standards, or B, I have found people who can kind of get a good foundation done, like they can get the ball rolling, and then I can swoop in at the end and just kind of put the finishing touches on it, all those finer perfectionist details. So whether it is carpooling, whether it is, paying the local college kid or high school kid to cut your grass, whether it's hiring a cleaning service or having your groceries delivered, finding someone or something, like some service that can help to ease some of your burden is going to provide massive benefits. For Dry Run December then, try and find a task that you could outsource, or hand over responsibility for a particular chore to a partner or a child, or ask a friend if they could just drop your library books back for you. It could be a once-off type thing or an irregular thing where you just kind of get some help when you're particularly busy, or it could be an ongoing arrangement. Make this coming year the year that you start delegating. I would love to know what small things make your life easier. And if you want to make your life easier in terms of planning and organizing and scheduling and writing those lists, then check the description because I have a freebie for you, a free December planner. Grab that one at the link in the description box, and until next time, go raibh míle maith agaibh. Agus feici mé sibh se go luath. Slán!